Recording you were. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ashutosh Sabu, your moderator for today's exciting edTalk on the listening advantage, fostering trust and collaboration. We are thrilled to have you all here for what promises to be an insightful and transformative session. Stay with us till the end for a chance to win amazing Amazon voucher worth rupees 1000. Without further ado, let's dive into this session and learn how effective listening can revolutionize our communication and leadership skills. It is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Roopshree Surana. Roopshree is a renowned performance enhancement coach and leadership facilitator. With over 16 years of industry experience, her expertise spans executive presence, emotional intelligence, and team leadership. She has a passion for personal growth and has mentored countless professionals across various industries. Roopshree's unique insights and practical strategies have made her a sought after mentor and speaker. Today, she will guide us through the nuance of deep listening and how it can foster trust and collaboration within our teams. Please join me in welcoming Roopshree Surana with your emojis of claps or happiness or celebration. Roopshree, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Hi, everyone. A very happy afternoon to all of you. I hope all of us are keeping safe and healthy. Great. I'm really thrilled to have you all join us for today's webinar, where we're going to explore a very crucial aspect of transformational communication, your leadership, that can really help you elevate your interactions and influence. And that's nothing but the power of listening. So let's dive in and discover how to turn listening into our greatest strength. Now, before even going ahead, I would just want to quickly check with you all, with a very quick check-in activity. So the question for you all is, what color are you today and why? I would just want to quickly check in with you as to what color are you today and why. So let me, yellow. So can I also hear the why behind the color? Mustard yellow. Okay, the white. Bright, happy, I like it. Good weather, peace in Delhi. All right. Awesome. Wonderful. Very good to hear the responses. And I'm all the more thrilled to have you all with me participating. And I would appreciate all of you continue your participation throughout the next 90 minutes and plus of us being together. Yep.
Sure. So,
Great.
Roopshree, I will ask the profile of all of our learners here,
Yes.
audience. So, let us make it more exciting and so that you can obviously give relevant examples and
Yes.
understand our audience. So, let me launch a poll wherein everyone can fill their work profiles.
Sure. It's always good to know the audience even before you get into interacting with them. Thank you, Ashutosh, for doing that. Interesting to see a lot of L&D and HR folks here. And okay, we have people from sales. We have people from the IT as well. The CXO is joining us too.
Poll has ended. You have the results right in front of you.
All right, that's interesting to know. We are, so when I say others, can I quickly hear it from you as to what is your profession? Where are you coming in from? Because we have 12 participants who's marked themselves with others. L&D, IT, CXO, sales. Good. Thank you, Ashutosh, for doing this for me. This helps me know my participants better. This helps me know my, fellow being here.
The floor is now all yours.
All right, great. Well, sure. So before even going ahead and taking you deep into the power of listening, enhancing why listening can really create an impact into our communication in our interactions. I would just want you to, I would just want to set the context by sharing that though it's a webinar, I would appreciate a lot of participation, and I'll keep on putting you into certain exercises and reflections. I hope everybody is all geared up for that. So the next 90 minutes, it's not just that you're going to be into the listening mode. I want you all to be into the participatory mode. If it's a yes, can I have quick thumbs ups from you all? Any reactions? Perfect. All right. That's great. Great. So imagine a future where your conversations and meetings are places where no one has to repeat themselves or fight to be heard. Now, picture an environment where people are not distracted, they're not ignored or misunderstood, but instead feel valued, respected, and truly heard. I'm sure each of us would really want to be in that environment. Each of us would want to travel down to that futuristic space where we would see our feelings are valued, they're respected and truly heard. So in such a future, every interaction really becomes an opportunity for connection and collaboration. And that's the theme that we're going to discuss on today. How listening can really help us foster that trust and collaboration within the teams that we are working in the corporate space, right? So let's explore what's how the power of listening can really help us create a very psychological safe and a supportive space for each other. So as we explore what it truly means to listen, the benefits of it, and the practical strategies to really improvise our listening skills, as I could see that you come from varied functions. Some of them are from the L&D space, and then IT. So whether you are here to enhance your leadership capabilities, or you're here to improvise your team dynamics, or simply become a better communicator by enhancing your listening skills, I think you all are at the right place today. Yeah. What are we going to uncover in these 90 minutes of our interaction or of our conversation is primarily on the 5 levels of listening. I would take you through all the 5 levels of listening. Some of it you might have heard, but then this is something that I have come across 2.5 years back, and since then, my listening skills have enhanced to a greater level. Yeah. So we'll also look at certain villains. I call them as the villains to listening, or the barriers in simple form. What are those barriers that often impede effective listening? And let's learn how to overcome them. How do we navigate these barriers in order to make it a real great interaction between the two parties, right? Having said that, the aim of this webinar is not to be a perfect listener. Don't expect that by the end of these 90 minutes, you will see yourself becoming a perfect listener. Certainly, that's not the aim that I have come with. But the aim is to improve on your last discussion as to how your conversation was the last time. So let's get on to improvising, let's get on to progressing. So keep on experimenting with the small little exercises, activities, or the techniques that I would be sharing with you. Remember that you're here with me onto the journey of building a lifetime skill. So some patience and a lot of practice will create a sustainable foundation and change the way we all communicate, right? So I have been extensively researching onto this particular aspect of listening because I am a communication coach. I'm a transformational communication coach. So this piece of this listening has been a very core research area for me, and I've extensively started working towards it in the last 5 years. And I have been working on what goes into people's listening, and I've realized that listening as a skill is a willingness to have your mind changed. So, are we all really open to exploring? Are we really open to bringing a shift in our mindset? Can I have a quick yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down? Are we all really open to exploring the principles of listening? Yes. Awesome. Wonderful. So, Ashutosh, I have an amazing, amazing bunch of participants today with me. And I'm sure I'm going to have a rocking time the next few minutes of our conversation. So, the principles of listening are really, really simple, yet, consistent daily practice is what will take a lot of effort. I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me on this, but the effort is worth it, is what I had realized in these last 5.5 years, right? But before we go ahead, I see you all are really charged up. But then, since we are talking on listening, I would just want to quickly check your listening battery. Can we quickly check in your listening battery? Because listening happens before, during, and after is what is my perception about listening. It's not only during the conversation. Before we even delve into these 5 levels of listening, I would just want to hear it from you. What's your listening battery? Are you at the green, which is you're completely with me, supercharged up? Or are you at the orange, which is slightly okay, okay? Or are you at the, red, irrespective of where you are? All right. I see people putting in green, orange. Okay, okay, great. And I will constantly do this check time and again just to see where your listening battery is. Yeah. And I would request, yeah, I already have this screen share. Ashutosh, can I quickly hear it from you if you are able to see my screen up there? Yeah, great. So we did talk about your listening battery. But then I would also want to understand what's your biggest listening struggle? We did understand listening is really important. It's a very crucial skill to improvise your conversation and communication. But let me hear from you. What's your biggest listening struggle? If you could just quickly take a moment to type into the chat section onto what is your biggest listening struggle and what would you like to improve in your listening today? We are about 60 of us, including me, Ashutosh. So, very quickly, wanting to hear from urgency to respond. Okay. Shortage of time. Interesting. Preconceived notions, wavering of mind, undivided attention. Awesome. Let it going. Let it keep going. Distractions. So the key term that I get to hear, get to see from the inputs is distractions. Maybe the presence of mind is not something that we are having, and it's undivided attention, the thoughts wandering here and there. All right. Sure. Thanks for all your inputs. So while I hear you say that these are the, while I hear you write, while I see you put your inputs there, that this is your biggest listening struggle. So let me share with you what is it that I have got for you all as the goal of our day. What is it that we will together look at achieving by the end of these 90 plus minutes? The goal is primarily to discover the hidden key, which is, as I said, is the power of listening. We'll look at uncovering these 5 levels of listening, where each level is really, really important for you to master to move to the next level. And then we'll also look at what are those villains, the 4 villains that I was talking about, and how overcoming these 4 villains, or overcoming these barriers can really help us foster trust and collaboration within the team. And ultimately, I would want you to walk away with what is that listening culture that we really need to build in the organization with some actionable strategies from each one of you, right? Great. Now, as I get into discussing more about listening, it's very important for us to explore what is the cost of not listening. So, in your experience so far, whichever area of work you have been doing, what has been your cost of not listening? What resulted in, or what was the impact, or what were the consequences of you not listening in a conversation? So, as we embark on our journey into understanding the listening advantage, it's important for us to recognize the significant cost of not listening effectively. So, before I go ahead and share with me my experiences of what has been the impact or what were the consequences of me not listening in a conversation. I would really want to hear it from you all as to what do you think? How has it impacted you professionally, personally, in your, in your lives? If while you did not listen to the conversation, well, how did it impact you? What were the consequences? Delay of work, losing important relationships, lesser information I get, absolutely. Okay, all right. Misunderstandings, missed important information. Absolutely. I think my experience, I can resonate with a lot of inputs that have been shared there, right? Miscommunication, errors, damaged relationships, lower employee morale while I was working as a part of a team, leading and managing a team. I could see a dip in the morale just because they were not, they were not cared, because they were not listened effectively. Missed opportunities, a lot of missed opportunities just because I was not present at the moment. There was a lot of inaccurate decision making that happened. Let me tell you that listening, true listening, is a rare gift, and it can really lead to deeper connections and understandings. Most of us often assume we know how to listen, and when in reality, we all have a room to improvise, we all have to room to grow. I in the last 15 years of me working in the space of transformational communication, I've also heard that impactful communication isn't just about how eloquently and persuasively you speak. It's about how consciously, deliberately, and skillfully you listen to others. That's how you really create an impact amongst the employees, with your customers, and the markets that you work in. And as Ashutosh has rightly mentioned, that I work with a lot of leaders, and very recently I heard one of the leaders say that Roop, listening is really hard, and it takes too long for us to build up the skill or develop the skill. But I just responded with one simple statement. I said, listening is light, it is easy, and it is straightforward, right? So it isn't a real difficult or a very hard skill. It is really light and easy only when you know the how of it. And throughout the discussion for the next few minutes, I would keep on repeating that listening is very, very situational, it's very relational, and it is very, very contextual. How many of you agree with me on this? Do you think listening is relational, contextual, and situational? Can I get a quick thumbs up? All right. I think you all are with me on this. Absolutely. So it might not be that what has worked with me in one of the scenarios might truly exactly work with you, because it's very, very situational, it's very contextual, and it is very relational. The way I listen to my mom might be very different to how I will listen to a person who works with me. And it could be very different to my manager, to the listening that I do with my manager. So it's very, very relational. So let's understand, let's keep these three elements in mind while we are looking at enhancing or building onto our listening skills, that it is very situational, it's very relational, and it is very contextual. And that's what makes all of us withhold our judgments while we are labeling people whether they're listening to us or not listening to us. Great. So it's a rare gift, and all of us do want to attain this gift and be blessed with this gift, is what I've often heard people say. How many of us love stories? How many of us love stories? A quick show of hand. Okay, I have these hands and the herds moving here and there. All right. So here's a small story of a busy working mom, um, Tina. Okay. So it's a beautiful autumn day, and Tina, a very, very busy mom, is in her car on her way to pick her daughter, a 3-year-old daughter, from her daycare center. Now it's a 25-minute drive. Okay, all right. So it's a 25 minutes drive, and Tina's work from Tina's workstation to the daycare center, it takes about 20, 25 minutes for her on a regular working day. Yeah. And Tina is just finalizing a work call with Fatima, which is her colleague, while she's driving. Now, Tina has expected the call to take about 10, 12 minutes, and she thought that I'll be very comfortably finishing off the call before I hit that daycare center. Unfortunately, the conversation went on a little longer and it covered kind of the entire distance. Now, she parks her car and continues the discussion with Fatima while she is walking towards the daycare center. Now, when she reaches the front gate of the daycare center, she takes another few minutes to finish the call. Now, eventually, she knows that she has to go in and pick up her daughter. So she hangs up the call, and goes through the doorway to collect her daughter. Although Tina has disconnected the phone call, she still hasn't disconnected her mind from the discussions, the issues, the actions that were covered in the call. So much that even at the door to the center, she's still ruminating on Fatima's questions, on the discussions that she has had. Now Tina's daughter, while she has seen her mother, she's really, really excited to see her mother, and she has host of things to share with her. Yeah, she keeps on saying, "Hey, mom, this is what we have done." She gives her a hug, tight hug, and keeps on sharing a lot of things. She tells wonderful stories about the adventures, the friends she made today, and the more specific details in the castles, the bridges, and the rivers, all that she's experienced throughout the day. Yeah. Now, showing her daughter how interested she is, Tina asks a lot of questions. Who was that? What did they do? What do you do next? And all of that. What did you like in this? Now, Tina puts her daughter into the car seat, and all of a sudden, her daughter announces, Mama, why are you bumping my words? And all of a sudden, had it been any other adult in place of Tina's daughter, I believe they would have said, "Stop interrupting me." Yeah. Now, Tina's enthusiasm for her daughter's story is what everyone wants to experience when they are talking, isn't it? We want to show interest, we want to ask a lot of questions, and we want to pay attention, at least show that we are paying attention. Yet her daughter experienced someone who was constantly interrupting her. While Tina was showing her excitement, her daughter felt that her mom was really interrupting her. Yeah. Now, Tina's daughter wanted to tell her the story entirely without any interruption. Completely, she wanted to share her story. She tried to tell the story from the start with till the finish without any questions. I'm sure some of us might have experienced something very similar to Tina and her daughter's story. Yeah. Many of us think that listening is about questioning. Now, why did I share this story? This is what I have experienced very, very recently, just in my Monday's conversation, in my coaching conversation with a very senior leader who's my coachee currently, where he came up with a question, Roop, isn't listening all about questioning? Is not questioning a sign that I am listening to you very, very completely? Now, when your mind is really absent or wandering, these questions appear just very randomly to the people, rather than something that expands the conversation. So, any arbitrary questions waste the speaker's time, and that might slowly diminish the relationship that you have with them. So Tina thought she was listening, and she kind of asked a lot of questions, but then they were not very relevant. The discussion did not go ahead at all. So whether it is a phone call or your next meeting, our undivided attention is one of the first, or our divided attention is one of our first barrier to listening. As a lot of you did mention that they're like mind wandering here and there, undivided attention is what you're really seeking for. No matter how strongly you intend to bring your attention and focus to a conversation, listening commences even before you arrive into the discussion. So, my point here is bringing you to the very first level of listening, which is listening to yourself. That's a base to any listening, right? So, what I'm coming up with right now, I'll put you into a very small exercise. And this exercise I have done with thousands of people, right? And I'm going to invite you to explore this along with me. Um as it has become a very potent part of my workshop when I do these transformational leadership journey programs. This exercise becomes a very, very potent part of the workshop that I interact on. Now, are you all ready? Can I really invite you all to pause and move to a very quiet location if you really want to participate with me on this particular exercise? Yes, great, thank you. So once I get to see good thumbs ups, that's where I would invite you all to move to a very quiet place where you cannot be interrupted for 3 minutes. I'm not asking you for a very longer time. Maybe some of you must be working at the office currently, or you might be in a place where you might have a lot of people around you. So if you can just snatch those 5 minutes and come to a space where you can just be yourselves, okay? And there are it's about 5 instructions that I'm going to give you to begin or to commence with this activity. Yeah. It'll not take a very long time. As I said, it's going to be a good 3-4 minutes. Now, for the next 3 minutes, I want you to focus your eyes on a very blank space. It could be a wall, it could be some, random paper, preferably not on the screen. If you can close your eyes during this exercise, it's even better, but I leave the choice to you. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Believing you all are with me, close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And I want you to move to a place where you can close your eyes and notice your breathing. Notice whether it is slow, fast, light, heavy. Okay. Now, while you're doing this, bring your attention to yourself and ask yourself this small question. What am I not listening to in myself? What am I not listening to in myself? I hope you've got my question well. What am I not listening to in myself? Uh, while you're doing this exercise, it's also very important for you to put your mobile phones on silent and put in the alarm for 3 minutes, preferably. I should have given this instruction beforehand, but nevertheless, right? So even if you're doing it now for the next 3 minutes, just ask yourself this simple question as to what am I not listening to in myself? Now, this simple exercise has really, really helped a lot of people. So, looking at the time that we have in hand, I invite you to open your eyes to whosoever has closed their eyes and whosoever was participating with me in this exercise. I invite you to, okay, great. Thank you, Ashutosh. So, we have last 60 seconds, almost 70 seconds before you open your eyes and All right, almost time up. I invite you to now open your eyes and I would just want to ask you three questions here. Did 3 minutes feel fast or slow? You can just quickly type it in the chat section. Did 3 minutes feel fast or slow? Slow, okay. Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Thanks for your responses. Did you get distracted? Did you get distracted? Mhm. And what did you notice? What did you notice? If you have genuinely closed your eyes and you were listening to, what am I not listening to? If you were focused onto this question, what did you notice? Got my answer? Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. It's hard to get an answer. So while I did this exercise for the first time, I noticed that there were very many random thoughts that popped into my head. Some have been, there were some thoughts that were percolating for a while, and some of these thoughts were part of a thinking pattern, and some new ideas also emerged during just these 3 minutes. Yeah. And like this popcorn popping around in a pot, our thoughts may have been bouncing off onto a lot of thoughts in our mind, right? Some are things you need to do immediately. Maybe these 3 minutes, for the people who felt it was very slow, you must have thought about a lot of things that are buried in for a very long time, and only they are surfacing at this moment now, right? Now, you might say that, Roop, is this a mindfulness meditation? Now, not really. This exercise is not a mindfulness meditation, though some of us might take it as a guided meditation practice. It's designed to surface all of the thoughts that your subconscious is processing before you listen to someone else, right? All of the things you have been listening to during this exercise are the submerged thoughts your mind is progressing before it's ready to listen to someone else. So, for the last 3 minutes, you've had a chance to listen below the surface, to listen to your subconscious thoughts and feelings. So, when we are not conscious of the thoughts that our mind is processing before we get into a conversation, the discussion will be disjointed and out of tune. I'm talking about the tuning in technique here. I'm primarily bringing your focus onto why, staying grounded, staying at the moment, and being in the present is so very important for us to bring our complete self into the conversation, right? So, for the last 3 minutes, if you had a chance to listen below the surface, to listen to your subconscious thoughts and the feelings, the point across here that I'm wanting to put is that listening starts first by listening to yourself. Where are you? When you take these 3 minutes before the conversation, it shows respect to yourself and to others as well. So, to the people who said that I react, instant response is what I give, instant reaction in place of response. So, if you're operating from reaction rather than the response place, then it's important for you to give yourself these few minutes. Sometimes these 3 minutes might be, pretty long that you might feel, but then just take these few minutes, maybe a minute or two, just to make sure that these distractions that you have are you're not getting distracted with these distractions during the conversation. You've given enough thought and you have listened to yourself, right? While we do not have control over what is happening outside, we can certainly control our internal dialogue and emotions that allow you to focus entirely on the speaker without letting your thoughts interfere. So make sure that you're listening to yourself even before getting into the conversation to listen to anybody else. And here is where I have brought. I was calm. Okay, sure. Yeah. Is it okay to feel disappointed, Sohini? So even that's an emotion. Listen to your emotion. As I'm saying, it's completely all right to listen to what state you are in currently. If it's if you are really feeling disappointed, there must certainly be a reason for your disappointment. So you know your emotional self at this moment. And you walk into that conversation by knowing what your emotion is. And when you know that you're getting into a conversation that is something regarding a new venture, and if you're currently at a very disappointed state, then you might not get the best out of the conversation. Now, what you can do is, since I know what my emotion is because I listen to myself, I'll quickly look at regulating that emotion, right? Because that's in my control. Things which are not in your control, you can't really do anything about it. But your emotions are in your control. There must be a reason for a disappointment, but certainly you can look at regulating that emotion for that moment if the conversation is something which is really, really important and impactful for you. I hope I answered a bit, and I can certainly take this question if you have something more. While maybe a little later, I'll get back to you on this question if that's okay with you. Yeah. Sure. Great. So here is what I would now want you to focus on are these, at the core of deep listening. So it's all about, we must have heard about a lot of terms like active listening, reflective listening, and effective listening, empathetic listening. I come up with a term which is deep listening. And at the core of deep listening is the concept of these 5 levels of listening. And these 5 levels describe the hierarchy of listening. Now, each level is very, very foundational, and you need to be very proficient at the previous level to effectively move to the next level. And these 5 levels were, I came across these 5 levels of listening, of deep listening by Oscar Trimboli, who's an expert in deep listening, and he's doing amazing work in the space of deep listening. Yeah. So let me just bring your attention to this particular 5 levels of listening. Allow me. Here is where I'm going to share with you these 5 levels of listening, and we'll talk slightly onto each of these as we continue our discussion. Here we go. Here's a quick take on these 5 levels of listening. So we did through this small exercise and through that Tina story, I was talking to you about the very foundational level, which is the listening to yourself. That's the core. And once you master listening to yourself, is that's when you move to the next level, which is listening to the content. And I'll spend about a little time on highlighting listening to the content. Listening to the content happens in 3 ways. The content is nothing but what the speaker is actually speaking, right? Now, while you're listening to the content, it happens at 3 levels. One, listening to what is being said, listening to what you see, and listening to the emotions that are emerging from the speaker's conversation or speaker's message. So it's so very important for us to listen not only with our ears, but also with our eyes, and also with the emotions and the feelings that the listener, with the feelings that the speaker is speaking with, right? So there's a very small exercise over here as well in the content piece. As they say that the eyes and the ears are almost at the same level. So while we listen a lot with our ears, equal is to listen with the eyes as well. Yeah. Listening to yourself, listening to the content, listening to the context. Now, very beautifully, it is said by Oscar Trimboli that listen to what is being unsaid. Now, any inputs? We'll talk about the content and the context as well. But what do you understand by listening to unsaid? Any inputs from anyone? If you could just quickly drop in your message, what do you mean by listening to the unsaid? Anyone? While I take a quick pause to drink sip of water. The hidden intent, okay. Gestures, emotion reading, expression. All right, I appreciate body language, emotions, expressions, deep empathy, lovely, great, awesome. So let's talk a little about. Thank you everyone for being very participative and interactive here. So let's talk about these 5 levels and how can we really become better at each of these levels. So when I came across these 5 levels, I was really stuck for a long time at listening to yourself. Now, let me tell you, it wasn't really easy for me, at least, to listen to myself very deeply onto what I'm experiencing, what emotions do I have. And while I had gone through that exercise, slowly and gradually, I was able to know where my emotions are surfacing, where am I currently? I was able to stay grounded. I was able to realize where I am. And that really helped me, move to the next level, that is listening to what I'm hearing, seeing, and the emotions. So while you master the listening to yourself, I see the next levels becomes slightly comfortable for you to get into practicing more effective listening and deep listening. Great. With that in mind, let's understand these five levels a little more better. So listening to the content. When you're listening to the speaker's content, there are three discrete and integrated elements, as I was talking about: the hearing, the seeing, and the sensing. What are you sensing? Right? Now, listening with your eyes, eye level is ear level, as I said. So, in order to make a connection with the speaker, what do you think is the ideal amount of eye contact that you need to have in a conversation? Should it be 100%? Should it be 50%? Should it be 80%? What do you think is the level of eye contact that you need to maintain in a conversation? 80%. So somebody who said 80%, 100%, all right. And of course, it's important for you to maintain eye contact, but ask yourself the question, people who have said 100%, do you really maintain 100% eye contact with the person whom you're conversating with? Most of the times the answer might be no. So what's comfortable, Ajay? Thank you. I appreciate that. Ideally, it is said that you should maintain about 70%, somewhere between 70 to 80% is what they say. Having said that, having a direct eye contact can, for more than 10 seconds at a time is unnerving for the person you're talking to. That's something that we all have to be really mindful about. And of course, there's a word of caution. In some cultures, having a direct eye contact is also not very appreciated. So it's very important for us to understand the other cultures and in bases that extend your eye contact between the women, the men. Maybe there are few things that might be considered inappropriate, right? So though I say it's 70% is important, please make sure you're mindful of the culture, cultural, you're very sensitive to the cultural facts as well. Now, listening to and for the emotion. Sensing emotions is the third step, right? Every discussion has the emotion present. In fact, emotion is present in everything as a human says and does, right? It's a signal to the listener about how they express the idea and what matters most to them. Now, people who are very, very observant will really focus on to the varying emotions that you see. You will see a range of emotions in a little conversation that you have. Again, depending on context, depending on the relationship that you hold, that I can express certain emotions. Remember, I spoke to you about listening is situational, contextual, and relational. So keep that three elements in your mind all the time when you are in the listening exercise. Yeah. Now there's a hazard in labeling the emotion as well. So be very careful when you are labeling the speaker's emotion. So if you have not mastered listening to yourself, this could lead to you labeling your feeling, other person's feelings and emotions very, very incorrectly. So as I said, get on to mastering the level number one, the foundational. And once you have mastered listening to yourself, that's when you can become better at listening to the emotions of the other person. That's with respect to the listening to the content in three, discrete phases, that is seeing, hearing, and sensing. Listening for context. What would listening for context really mean to you? Just to draw a little conversation here, what does listening to context mean to you? What is a context here? Reading between the lines. Okay, get a holistic picture. Absolutely, you're pretty close. It involves understanding the context in which the conversation is really happening, right? It includes considering the speaker's background. What is the situation? Are there any external factors that are influencing our conversation? Yeah, it's reading between the lines. Yes, it's about understanding what is being said explicitly. Yeah, yes, sure. So, how to uncover what is unsaid? That's the next level. It's about how do we now how some of the questions that you can ask, like these three are my favorites. If you have to uncover what is being unsaid, because this is the space I enjoy the most in these five levels. The first level is the first very very important foundational one, and then listening to what is being unsaid. As they say, listen and silent has the same words, same letters, right? So it's so very important for us to listen to the silence that we have in the midst of the conversations that we are having. So 2 3 things that I practice in my coaching space is tell me more and what else. The moment I bring up these questions, I see there's so much that the speaker or the listener, my coachee, gets on to saying, which he or she wouldn't have said otherwise. So tell me more. What else? These are two very, very powerful questions that you can really uh, continue the conversation, or you can listen to what is being unsaid. Yeah. And along with this, there are a few more questions that I also get into sharing or asking is, how long have you been thinking about this? Yeah, the moment you bring this up, people do come up with the answers which they wouldn't have shared otherwise. Yeah, when did you first notice this? So these are a few questions that can uncover the unsaid. Yeah, very powerful questions to help the speaker express what they have already explored in their mind, but have yet not verbalized. Right, a lot of times you will see through the emotions that a person is really wanting to share something, but they're not able to put that into words. They're not able to verbalize that. So during that time, these questions can really be a very powerful tool for you to let the speaker express. And let me tell you, people who are in whichever function you're working in, while we work in the teams, it's so very important for us to understand the entire piece of the information during our conversations. And these questions can really help you to dig out or probe for more information. And then comes to listening to what is unsaid, listening for the meaning, the deeper meaning. It's about grasping the underlying meanings. Most of the times, while I share these five levels and I ask for reflection on what do you think of, a lot of leaders, a lot of people come to me and say that, Roop, most of the times we travel from sensing to attaching a meaning. We miss out on the in between layers that you could see in that, five levels that I shared. Most of us, uh, we listen to what we just hear and we draw meaning out of it. We add our own interpretations and we add a meaning to what we are listening. But in between these, what you sense to what you attach as a meaning, there are a few more layers that each of us have to really uncover, each of us have to peel in order to become very effective listeners, right? So there are a few, you know, uh, of course, listening to answer also happens with your nonverbal cues, observing the body language, the facial expressions, to get a fuller understanding of the speaker's message. So please be very, very observant of those aspects as well. Now, before I go ahead and share with you certain practical tips for each level, I would just want to pause and see if you all are with me. Can I quickly hear, maybe not hear the noise, but can I quickly see a little buzz on the screen if you're there with me with your reactions? All right. Okay. Sure. Now, just to check your listening battery, where are we currently? It's been almost, say, about near to 60 minutes of our conversation. Where are we? Are we good? All right. Awesome. So how do you like these five levels? Do you think These 5 levels is something that will help you, you know, maybe bring your focus onto listening more effectively going forward. Interesting. Sure. Awesome clarity on listening. Mhm. Okay. All right. Mhm. Sure. So while I'm asking you as to how do you like this, we can take a little time to maybe take in one or two inputs from you. Any revelations, anything as a clarity that you would really want to seek at this moment? Anybody, maybe one or two questions. I don't want to interrupt the entire flow. There's so much more that we have to discuss in the next 30 minutes plus. But then if there is something, or Ashutosh, do you suggest that we take it in the Q&A round, which is maybe we'll spend a little extra time over there focusing on that? Yeah, sure. So you can park your questions. My only thought was if you have or you need any clarification, you can just have it parked on a sheet of paper or somewhere on the digital board, and we can take it up during our Q&A round. All right.
So there's always a section called Q&A next to the chat. If you put your questions in Q&A, they wouldn't get missed. Generally on chat, we might end up missing those questions. So in case you don't have a pen, you don't want to keep it, and you want to just flaunt your questions, start shooting it there. We'll take them in the end with Roopshree.
Yes, sure. Yes, that really helps us to continue our conversation in a in a smooth way. So while I did take you through these 5 levels of listening, let me tell you, listening is a contact sport, right? So do have somebody whom you really trust, maybe at the workplace, in your personal, in your social life. Practice these small little exercises and techniques with them, and you will see a lot of change in the way you bring in your emotions, the way you are grounded, the way you practice listening. So have somebody with whom you can really practice these small little exercises to enhance your listening skills. That's a small input from my end, because it's only out of practice that you can become better at this particular skill primarily. Yeah. So while we did focus onto these 5 levels of listening, let's now bring our attention onto how do we really, what are some of these, are there a few things that we can really do at each level to become better at it? Now, this was a question that I asked my facilitator when I was going through these 5 levels. And he surely said that yes, at each level, there are a few things that you can do at the individual level to become better at it. And that's what I'm going to showcase for the next 1 minute on screen for you to absorb. What is it that you can do to become better at listening to yourself? What is it that you can do to listen better to the content of the speaker, the context, to what is being answered, and to the meaning? So here are a few practical tips. Now, these are the tips that has worked well for me and the leaders that I connect with. And I believe, this could be something that could be of use to you as well. So why not give it a quick glance and see what's something that we can start working upon, start focusing upon right at this moment. And the moment we are done with the reading, let's move to the next topic of our discussion, which is what comes your way in the listening. I believe I did ask you this question in the beginning, and some of you did mention some of the barriers. But let's look at addressing the very famous 4 villains, as again mentioned by Oscar Trimboli. So, out of these practical tips, which one are you really looking forward to practice right from now onwards? Can I have a quick input in the chat section just to see that you're with me and hear from you as to which of it do you wish to practice right at this moment? Notice silences and hesitations, listening to yourself. Okay, sure. Great, wonderful. And you may quickly make a note of these as you are seeing and absorbing it so that you can work on it at a later stage as well. Perfect. So here's a quick question for you all. What tends to get in the way when you are truly trying to listen and hear and understand the other person. Distractions is what a lot of people did mention. I heard a lot of people saying that, maybe internal distractions, external distractions, a lot of things that come our way. There are a lot of barriers, obstacles, hurdles that kind of, makes our listening process a little ineffective. So again, highlighting Oscar Trimboli, where there are a lot of barriers, and he kind of categorizes these multiple barriers into four different categories. And he speaks about these four villains of listening. And the four villains, it's with due respect to what Oscar has shared. You may, in your own way, you can rename it and not call them villains. You can just say, okay, these are the barriers to listening. You may call it the way you want it, and I'm going to share with you exactly these four barriers, obstacles, hurdles, villains of listening. Yeah. Dramatic. Now he is very categorized, is very beautifully categorized into four different, types. One is dramatic, the other is interrupting, third is lost, and the fourth is shrewd. Now let's get into a little deeper understanding of each of these. Yeah. So dramatic, interrupting, lost, and shrewd. I'm sure lost is something that a lot of us already know, that you're not there. You're completely lost into very many different thoughts. And an interrupter is somebody who cuts you in every time. But what is dramatic? What is shrewd type when it comes to the villains or the barriers? What are these different types of, listening barriers? The dramatic listener, if I have to give you a little more clarity on what the dramatic listener does or who he or she is, he's someone who enjoys adding excitement to the conversation by relating everything back to their own experiences. So it's like, maybe I'm talking about what is effective communication, or I'm talking about miscommunication. Okay, as a facilitator, I'm talking about miscommunication. Now, somebody from the audience, one of the delegates gets up and says, "Hey, Roop, you know what? This is where I felt this was my reason for miscommunication." So I'm really excited during the conversation, and I relate everything to my own experiences. Now, what happens with this is they often steer the conversations towards themselves and their stories, especially if they can make them sound more dramatic. It's like I want to bring the focus back to me. Yeah. What is the impact of this behavior? What really results into this behavior? Now, this behavior can really make the speaker feel undervalued, and sometimes he or she might also feel very ignored as the focus shifts away from their message onto the listener's own narrative, right? So it disrupts the flow of the conversation, and that can really lead into a lack of genuine understanding, and it might disrupt the other folks who are there in that conversation, in the meeting, in the session. It kind of creates a very disturbing atmosphere. Yeah. So let's understand these four styles or the four barriers, and then we can term ourselves as to where do I belong to. What is my barrier? Am I a what do you say, interrupting listener, or am I a dramatic listener, or am I a shrewd listener, or am I the lost listener? So that is with respect to the dramatic listener. Now, the interrupting listener. Now, Oscar Trimboli again very beautifully says that interrupting listener frequently cuts off the speaker to interject their own thoughts, solutions, or opinions. As simple as the term itself says, somebody who interrupts you. Now, what would be the impact of such, that somebody who is constantly interrupting you? If you have to ask me, one word that comes to my mind is, it's such a frustrating feeling. When somebody is just interrupting you and disrupting the flow of the conversation, it is, of course, it signals impatience, and it is also a big. It also shows a lack of respect on the speaker's perspective, speaker's opinions or views. And of course, again, it makes the speaker very unimportant, unheard. That's with respect to the interrupting listener. The lost listener, somebody who is, very distracted in their own thoughts or something which is external, some internal or external factors. And of course, again, the speaker might feel that you are unheard. The speaker might feel unheard or undervalued as well, while you are a lost listener there. Now, moving on to the shrewd listener. Now, very interestingly, the shrewd listener is a person who is listening very, very attentively, but is actually focused on formulating their own responses or a solution in their heads. So they are really looking at identifying the problem and are quick to offer advice and answers, often without fully understanding the speaker's perspective. It's like I heard a bit of it and then I get into the advice mode. I get into, formulating my own response or my own solution, wherein I have missed out on listening to the speaker completely. So this behavior can really make the speaker feel that you're not truly understanding the concerns, or you're being very, very oversimplified. You're making things very simplified, but at the same time that's kind of disrupting the flow of the speaker as well. This, at times I have seen that a shrewd listener can really shut the speaker completely. Yeah. And maybe it just derails the conversation because I am into the solution centric mode. I'm completely getting into the advice mode as a shrewd listener. Yeah. So as a shrewd listener, I appear to be listening attentively, but it's actually focused on formulating my own opinions, my own responses, my own solutions. Yeah. So this is what a shrewd listener really does. Now, here is what I would want to now invite you to share as to what kind of listening barrier are you currently practice or are you currently seeing in your listening journey? Are you a shrewd listener? Are you a lost listener? Are you a interrupting listener? Or are you a dramatic listener? If you've understood these listener barriers well, so what kind of listener are you in general? What is your listening barrier? The dramatic listener, the interrupting listener, the lost listener, or a shrewd listener? Okay, between dramatic and interrupting. Uh-huh. Okay, all right, sure, all right. So once you've identified what is your listening, barrier, then you can have certain strategies to, really work towards them. So my next share is about the the strategies that can really help you become better at overcoming these listening barriers for yourself to become more effective in your conversation and communication. So whether if you are a dramatic listener, like some of you did mention that I am between two, maybe I dwindle between these two barriers. I move from here and there. I'm both, or I'm between. So for the dramatic listener, it's important for you to acknowledge, most of the times these dramatic listeners get into talking about themselves. It's important for you to acknowledge the fact that there's something that the speaker is actually putting that across. Yeah. And for the interrupting listener, patience is highly, highly important. You need to hold on to your impulsiveness, and you need to practice more of patience. And one of the key ways that you can really do that is taking deep breaths, deep, long breaths. That will really help you. And of course, paraphrasing, reflective listening is something that has helped a lot of times, even for me. Yes, there's an urge to interrupt when you know it all, right? So during those times, it's important for you to hold on to your horses and just stay silent for a while and take a deep breath. Listen to it completely rather than you going ahead and doing it yourself. And for the lost listeners, practicing mindfulness is super, super important. Check the nonverbal cues. Use your own nonverbal cues just to be there at the moment in the speaking conversation. Yeah. The shrewd listener, one of the keys that has really helped me is asking open-ended questions. Yeah. And these are few strategies to help you overcome the listening villains, the so-called villains, the shrewd, dramatic, interruptive, and the lost listeners. So, while we have discussed these 5 levels of listening, and we also brought our attention to these 4 villains or the barriers to listening, I would now want to hear some answers from you onto these few questions that I have. Now, what would happen when you listen with your whole being? What would happen when you reflect and focus on the feelings that you have and the other person has? What would happen when you do not interrupt the speaker? What would happen when you consider the meaning of the speaker's words? What would happen when you present your views very, very calmly? And what would happen when you show them that you are listening? What do you think will that lead to? So answering these questions, and you can take up any one, you can talk about all of them. What do you think will happen when you listen with your whole being, when you consider the meaning of the speaker's words? What would this yield to? What would this result into? Mhm. Good conversation, relationship and trust is built, good connection. All right. Mhm. Peaceful exchange. Absolutely. Long lasting conversation with good connection. Wonderful. Thanks for all your inputs there. Trust. It helps you to build rapport, right? It helps you to, it also really brings it helps, it fosters the relationship. It makes you be less judgmental. There are a lot of things that you can really achieve, right? And one of the keys that I am wanting to bring in here, as some of you have coined that term, it's about building trust. It helps you to build the trust within the team, within the group, within the organization, be it anywhere, in your personal and in your professional life. If you start practicing all of these things that we just had it on screen, in any relationship, trust is the foundation upon which strong connections are built, right? Now, without trust, communication really becomes really strained, and relationships can quickly deteriorate. And this, I'm sure each of us might have experienced in some time or the other. There are a few foundational elements that contribute to trust building, and maybe we can discuss on to very briefly. Again, one of my favorite authors is Brené Brown, because I work with a lot of women leaders on to empowering and uplifting them and helping them transition from underestimated to unstoppable. And I'm on a personal mission on to helping them move from underestimated to unstoppable. So here's another book by Brené Brown where she very, very beautifully talks about why is it, what are the factors that leads to greater trust and greater, cohesiveness. And I'll quickly share that acronym that she talks about, the brave trust. She speaks about these 6 elements, the 5 elements, the brave trust, which I'll just quickly highlight it here. Uh, and I also feel that one of the easiest ways to build the trust in the team, in the department, in the function, in the organization, is by listening and by being very empathetic. Just by acknowledging and telling people you understand, that can be a great way to build trust, or you being trustworthy, right? So by truly hearing and understanding others, we demonstrate our willingness to connect. Uh, it's like validating their experiences and of course fostering a sense of trust amongst us. Yeah. So if I have to really ask you, put you into a little reflection by this question, which is, when was the last time you felt truly heard? When was the last time that you felt truly heard? Was it a day back, few hours back, few weeks back? Yeah. When was the time that you felt truly heard? An year ago. Roopsee, I am not really amazed to hear this response. Yeah, because for many, it could be days, weeks, or even months ago. And for one friend, it was exactly as you said, it was years ago, is when what she said that, you know, Roop, it has been so many years that I felt that I have been truly heard. And that in itself, I was not judgmental when she said this, but then that gave me a thought that it is not that everybody gets heard very easily. Listening is a real, it's not very difficult, it's easy, but then not everybody knows how to, is what is I felt few days back, couple of weeks back, 8 months back. How precise, Sinchana? Great. So my question, and I want you to think through this question time and again. Uh, we each do our best to make it look like we are listening. We nod, we hum, we say we make eye contact, but we all know our thoughts distract us and takes us somewhere else, right? So while you are listening or while you are being listened to, just keep a check onto your own internal thoughts, which are completely in your control, right? Maybe they are the ones that are obstructing you from listening to the other person very, very completely. Yeah. So keep asking yourself, when is the last that you would that you were truly heard? So here's a very simple exercise that I would want to share with you. However, would like to check from you. Would you be interested into knowing another simple exercise? A quick yes, a thumbs up, a nod, or I mean, a raise of hand is what would tell me that we are interested, inclined into this exercise. Okay. So I see the hands raised. So, all right, with that, let's get into a very simple exercise. So, all the exercises that I'm sharing, they would range somewhere from 2 to 3 minutes to say about 10 minutes at max. Now, it's upon each of us. How do we take it? And how much time do we really want to cater to each of these exercises? Uh, so while I'm sharing this exercise again, at this moment, it's completely all right. But primarily, this exercise, maybe listen to it at this moment, and even try it out with a very dear friend or a very trusted friend in a very quiet place again, and also tell them that you would like to try something out to see how it feels for the two of you. Yeah, let's be very, very authentic and real at the beginning when we are doing this exercise by telling them that you're going to try a very simple exercise with them, and just to explore how does it make the two of us feel by the end of these few minutes. Maybe agree for 5 minutes each, wherein both of you will do it. So 5 minutes from your side to him and 5 minutes. So altogether a 10 minutes exercise. Set the timer, agree to put aside all the distractions, sit facing each other so that you can see the expressions, the emotions, and the feelings as well. Uh, and promise not to interrupt. That's a very, very important thing. Even if they go silent, feel that the person is in front of you and you're the most important person, and he or she is the most important person in your life at this moment. Yeah. So with these simple instructions of removing the distractions, promising that you're not going to interrupt, uh, even if you're going silent, you will feel that he or she is the most important person at the moment. And once you are set with this particular, you're following these instructions, let's now understand. Let's put ourselves or ask this question to the other person. What is present for you at this moment? And start the timer for 5 minutes. What is present for you at this moment? Maybe if I can ask Ashutosh to put this up in the chat section. What is present for you at this moment? It's a quick question. This is one question that you will just ask him and set aside the timer. Note that whatever each person talks about is entirely up to the speaker to decide, right? I am not going to interrupt as a listener. I just asked you a question, and it's the speaker who's going to now continue the response. It is also not a discussion or a debate. So there's no discussion, there's no debate. It's simply an opportunity for the speaker to speak without interruption. Now, as the listener, keep your eyes on their eyes, even when they move their head to think. A soft gaze is all that is needed. No, it is not a staring contest, of course not. So be interested in where their thinking is going. Notice notice you need to interrupt, and don't be in awe as how the mind is, working. So even when they go quiet, when the time is up, swap and repeat the same, right? So for every 5 minutes, you will just ask the simple question: what is present for you at this moment? It's a very, very powerful question, and I often use this in my coaching conversations. What is the present for you at this moment? Yeah. After the two of you are done with 5 minutes of round, you just ask each other this question: how did that feel to you? How did that feel to you, or how did that make you feel? Offer a word of appreciation to each other after you ask this question and after you talk about. See, most of us are very good at feedback and advice. This is what I have experienced and I've often told as well. So, which is all about what the person is doing. It can be positive, it can be negative. But then appreciation, on the other hand, is always uplifting. And it's about who the person is, their being and all of that. So a good listener would explore qualities such as curiousness, kindness, thoughtfulness, insightfulness, selflessness, right? So these are few qualities that a good listener will explore. Right. So this primarily the five minutes of you asking this the first question, which was what is present for you at the moment, and then 1 minute for you to answer how did that feel to you, or how did that make you feel? How did that feel for you? Whichever way you want to frame it. But then make sure that you are, you know, doing this exercise at this moment, since you're not practicing it. It might feel to you that, what would this lead to? But believe me, if you did this 12 minutes exercise each day with your loved one, or maybe once or twice a week with your work colleague, believe me, you will see the level of trust would grow, because there you are practicing thoughtfulness, insightfulness. You're being very curious, not just by asking questions, but then you're curious in your own minds to see as to what's emerging from the simple one question: what is present for you at this moment? Right? What I have noticed is that the more we do this activity, the deeper the conversations go, and the more liberating they become, and the more vulnerable a person feels that they can be in your presence. This has worked amazingly well with a lot of leaders when they do it with their teams on a one-on-one basis. People have done it as a group exercise as well, but then as a one-on-one exercise, it has really helped them. And don't expect magic to happen, because instant gratification is what each of us really enjoy. But then let's hold on to that for a while and look at doing this, exercise for a little time, for us to understand and observe that the relationship or the level of trust is growing within us. Right. So this is trust in action for me. And believe me, this has really, really helped me. As we all know that we cannot demand trust from anyone, but our listening can really inspire trust. And that's what this exercise is all about. You can really inspire trust by just getting into this exercise of listening to another individual. Yeah. So how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this particular exercise, folks? So we're almost nearing to the end of our conversation. We have another few minutes with us. Before I take up the questions, Indrajit, okay. It requires building trust to have someone confide in. Yes. Indrajit, I'll respond to your question. Looks interesting and worth trying. Yes, Shruti, go ahead and try this. It's an interesting exercise, and as I said, um, you know, it really slowly builds the trust within the team because you're there. Not a very forceful trust action is what you're expecting, but you are there being in the moment, listening to that person without interrupting, without asking questions, just building up your curiosity and maybe talking about the feelings together. Um, sure. All right. Great. So while we did discuss about the trust as listening as a as a tool to build trust, or what else can listening result in, or how else does it make a person feel if you are listening to them and thereby building the trust? It makes them feel valued and understood, certainly. And all these inputs that I'm sharing right now has really come up through the exercise that I shared with you just now. With that one simple prompt for 5 minutes, just allowing the person to speak, it has really helped me create that space for them to feel valued, to feel understood, to feel safe and supportive. So one of the key areas that I work and I'm doing a lot of study in is how do I infuse the psychological safety into the teams, into the organization, or rather into the fabric of the, uh, into the fabric and the culture of the organization. And while I do so, listening is a very, very key part to make somebody feel safe and secured, to make somebody feel very brave. These safe spaces will result or will lead to these brave places for people to contribute, feel more comfortable. So feeling valued and understood, open communication, of course reduced misunderstanding, resolving the conflicts, building empathy, and of course respect and appreciation. Now these are the few outputs of the exercise that I just shared, and from different people. When I heard how did it make you feel, these were the inputs that came from the different people who had participated in this exercise. Now maybe I would, as a lot of you were mentioning, that you would go ahead and commit to try this. Maybe when we connect next sometime, I would love to hear from you as to what was the output for you. How did it make you feel? Did it really establish that trust? Did it help you build the trust in the relationship? Or what else did it result into? Yeah. And as I was talking to you all about Brené Brown, these are the 7 elements of trust that she speaks very beautifully in her book, which is the braving. Braving is an acronym where she talks about boundaries, reliability, accountability, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. So this is something that you can keep handy while you're really looking at building trust in the team. Yeah. So, as we come to a closure of our discussion, what do you think? How can we really create a listening culture? What all do you think you need to do in order to create a listening culture? Let me just very quickly hear it from you all. Maybe see your inputs in the chat section. Yeah. Lead by example, open communication. How can we all, in our own organizations, in our teams, in our functions, create that culture of trust or culture of, the listening culture? Make forum for people to speak awesome. Absolutely. Connection and caring. Yes. Show others that you truly care for them. It should cascade top bottom. Certainly it should. It should. All right. Act on the feedback. Interesting inputs there. So, looking at the paucity of the time and not going very deeper into each of it, and I think a lot of you have already got a bit of what I wanted to share. This is how I had helped 3 organizations build the listening culture. We've really focused onto the elements that I'm just going to share with you. By focusing on these elements, we've really helped them create that listening culture. We've helped them foster that listening culture. That was a real mess. As I said, I work in the psychological safe space, And I do these journey programs, and that's where this listening culture was a very, very, very significant piece that had to be touched and focused and developed upon. And that's where we had really worked upon this and spent quite a bit of time and incorporated these elements, which really helps us to foster or build a listening culture. Yeah. Okay. Right. With a very non-judgmental attitude, psychological safety, continuous improvement, taking a listening pledge. Like I did read some messages saying that there should be trainings. It has to be a top-down, approach that needs to be practiced. And there were listening labs that we did, that we kind of infused into the organizations. They were listening labs. We celebrated diversity. Different perspectives is what is very important when it comes to creating the culture of listening. Diversified viewpoints, different perspectives, breaking that pattern, the shifting the paradigms. All that is so important, and very important is to show appreciation, be it any form, verbal, non-verbal, any form, going ahead and showing the appreciation. Yeah. So this is how we have really helped organizations foster a very learning culture in the fabric of their organization, in their system, I would say, in their ecosystem. We've helped organizations foster the learning culture by practicing these, and at varying levels. Some of the organizations we had to spend a lot of time on to creating psychological safety. For some, it was focusing more on the appreciation because that was the lowest. For some, it was to build on to that mind shift of replacing judgment with curiosity. Yeah, helping them with thought provoking questions. So there were a lot of elements that we focused on, but ultimately, this is how it really helped them create a very cohesive, collaborative environment in the organization. So, with this, I believe we are very much on time. But before that, before I take in your questions, which I see there are a few, let me just ask, what's that one thing you will do differently in your next workplace discussion? There's a miss of in here. Apologies for that. But then I think you get the gist of it. What's that one thing you will do differently in your next workplace discussion? Awaiting your responses on the chat, and then maybe quickly would. Okay. Right. That's a strong statement saying that I'll be a non-interruptive listener. Believe me, Ruxana, it takes time for us to become more proficient and better at it. And I'm sure you are. If you have set an intention, I'm sure you'll go the long way with that. All right. Great. Interesting to know your, actions that you are willing to take as you step out of this session today. And I'm glad that, there's one action step that each of us are focusing on doing. All right. Great. It was an amazing interaction. I mean, interaction in the sense I've had a very participative, uh, crowd today. So let's quickly hear the questions, and let me give my best to respond to your questions. All right.
Hi, so there's a question from an anonymous attendee. How do you engage with someone who listens or listens to data or is more of a visual person?
Mhm.
How do you engage with someone who listens to data or is more of a visual person? I think something like a presentation is being talked about, like kind of involving audio and visual both. Sorry, I would not interpret it and leave it to you.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Ashutosh, for reading that out for me. And I'll just briefly share that. Of course, this can be taken at a very long length and help you understand the learner styles as well. So, how do you engage someone? Uh, so there are different learner styles, learning styles that each of us has. There are few who are visual learners, there are few who are auditory learners, and there are few who are kinesthetic learners, right? So having a quick check of who my audience is. If it's maybe I'm taking reference of a presentation and answering your question, you can further add on and say that, this is something that I would want to do it in reference to this situation. But if it is to engage people, primarily if you are unaware of your audience, yeah, it's always important for you to have a very blended approach. When I say blended approach, it's important for you to have something as an offer for everyone who's attending your program. People who are visual learners, you need to have some pictorial representation of the information that you're sharing. For the auditory listeners, your voice is the tool through which they get the message clearly and loudly. And for the kinesthetic learners, you involve them into doing something. And that doing could be making them think or making them physically act on something. So, how do you engage? These are the three ways that you can engage. If you're aware of the audience, great. Your engagement on that particular aspect is much higher. Having said that, you will not have all the audience with a similar learner style. Having known who the audience is, it's always good to vary your proportions based on the audience. So, a quick audience analysis can really help you. Yeah. So person who's more of a visual or a data, they would always want to know the facts. So bring your communication or give your information in a way wherein he finds something. So don't talk about, only do the talking. Show them something on the screen, maybe the graphical, the pictorial representation that will make him be more engaged.
Great.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people participating in the chat. If you have questions, please put it in the Q&A box. Um, that's the request.
Do we
Uh,
have more? Do we have any more questions?
I think someone was putting in the chat, but
Mhm.
it's okay. Yeah, we do have two more questions. One is from Krishnaveni. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. How to stop distractions. I think we did cover it in a long length, but if still you want to give a liner.
Uh-huh. How to stop distractions? Now, that's a, I wish I knew the answer to this, right?
Again,
Uh,
I see people putting on questions in chat boxes. You need to put in the Q&A section. Sorry, yeah.
all
Should
right.
I go to the next question?
Uh, I'll just quickly respond. See, putting a stop to the distractions isn't possible at all. Let me tell you, distractions will keep on coming in. It's just that you have to be very intentional on to, giving a voice back and say that, hey, hold on. Don't look at avoiding the distractions is what I would say, right? Look at addressing it. Only then it'll come to a rest. So stopping distractions, at least for me, I haven't found the answer yet. So I believe it's an ongoing thing. It's you have to be more intentional on prioritizing what is important for me at the moment.
Just to add something to this, Roopshree, I've been trying something. I met with someone, I have a young child. I met with someone who was telling me my child sucks his thumb a lot. Okay. So someone
Mhm.
told me try to deviate his mind. That practice, I don't know how. One day I started inculcating in myself. I am not a very good reader, but then to read, I also was a guy like first question. I need a visual thing also, audio thing also.
Mhm.
Finally, to get by the end of the page, I would have to go back at the top. So one fine day, I took a habit of reading out loud, and that's been working fine. I've read quite a lot of pages of that book now. I just diverted myself rather than concentrating on getting distracted from a word to another and getting out of the book. Now
Mhm.
reading it loud has just helped me. So that is what worked for me recently.
Sure. Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. There are few, strategies that might work. As they say, there's no one size that fits all. So there are strategies that you can stop. I would say not stop, but at least you can manage the distractions at the moment by applying some of these strategies.
Yeah.
Krishna, maybe I hope we've
Yeah.
kind of answered a bit of what you wanted to ask.
Last, but we have more questions, but then let's just take one or two more.
Mhm.
There's one question from Kirti. What is present for you at this moment? Does present mean gift? Mean what are we grateful about?
Uh, so what is present for you at this moment is you can decode it the way you wanted, Kirti. Did I hear? Yeah, Kirti, right? So what are you grateful for? Primarily, you can decode it the way you want it, and that's where you don't define what does it mean to the receiver of the question, right? So if I asked you this question and you had what is present for you at this moment, present for me at this moment is I'm full of gratitude. Yeah. What is present for me at this moment is there's so many challenges that I have. So I can speak my heart out. There are about 5 minutes that you have given to me by asking this question, and I'll come up with whatever I feel I am present at this moment. So it's a very open-ended question, as I would want to put it across. Let that come from the receiver of the question, and you become the receiver for the next 5 minutes to what is coming out. By this, what you're doing is you're being unbiased. I don't want you to be biased, thinking that is it a gift? Is it what you're grateful for? What is that you want to extend as a gratitude? Is it joy? Is it anger? Let that be whatever is present at this moment.
Certainly.
Do you think helps?
So there's one more question by anonymous, but I'll pass it because we already all, answered one anonymous. I see Roopshree Jen has one question. When would be their next session on the same topic at the same? Okay, yeah. So Roopshree is available. She is a very cooperative trainer with us. You can contact EdForce for any trainings for Roopshree. If you have any questions, you can mail to me or find Roopshree on social media, approach her. But yeah, a follow-up session can be certainly thought about once you guys are filling up feedback. If you ask me for a follow-up session, I'll certainly like to loop in Roopshree into it, provided the time permits. But yeah, I'm answering for you, Roopshree. If you have any questions, you can go to her. And if there's a level next, Roopshree, do let us know. We will love to schedule seeing the great response.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Ashutosh, for responding to that. Great.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you guys are really interested in scheduling a session with Roopshree for your workplace, put us in touch with your L&D managers, your managers. We will reach out to them. We will give them your feedback and push for a session from Roopshree because we all have witnessed how great it is, right?
Wonderful. And of course,
Uh,
there are ways that we can stay connected through the social media. And of course, you can reach out to Edforce, as Ashutosh was mentioning. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
great.
Great. I think we are very much on time with responding to the questions and with whatever I had to take them through. Yeah,
For the most of you who have been waiting for the vouchers, I'll just take 1 minute more and then I'll be on it. So, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you found the session on listening advantage, fostering trust and collaboration as enlightening and transformative as we did. The 3 minute exercise was fantastic highlight, demonstrating the power of listening to the unsaid and making meaningful eye contact. The insight on hearing the inner voice beneath the surface was particularly profound and eye-opening. A big thank you to our incredible speaker, Roopshree Surana, for her invaluable expertise and engaging presentation. Your practical strategies and deep insights are truly enriched our understanding of effective communication. Moving ahead to something more interesting. Oh, first of all, thank you, Roopshree. Thanks a lot
sure.
once again. Yeah. Taking the session
You
ahead. Beginners, we have our next Ed Talk, which is planned for the 25th of July. It is a technical Ed Talk, a beginner's guide to everything DevOps by DASA. So EdFirst is a partner with DASA. This Ed Talk is in collaboration with DASA. So DASA training director as well as DASA trainer would be joining us for this Ed Talk. Stay tuned. The link will come to you in the email. Don't worry about it. Follow-up email. Now, the most interesting part, Root 3, your learners are waiting about. So it's a giveaway alert. All you got to do is follow EdForce on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Step 1. Step 2, go to Google, type EdForce, only EdForce. You will find a review section. Yeah. In the review section, please write a review. I'm sure the session was a great kick-ass session. So I would be expecting you to write a review there. Give us a rating, write a review, and share the screenshot on my email address mentioned here. And that's it. Email it to me. You will get your vouchers within next 10 working days. A follow-up email from Zoom will be sent to you. Uh, that will have more details about it. Take a screenshot. Thank you. Anything else, Roopshree?
All good. Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for being a constant support. And thanks for setting the context and closing it and wrapping it up so well. All right. Lovely being with all of you. Thank you so much for a wonderful time with me. And thanks for all the participation that I had today. Great. Have a lovely evening. Bye bye and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.